Welcome, welcome, welcome to my webinar. It doesn't matter if you're here while we're live or if you popped into the room to watch the replay. I'm just so glad you were able to make it. As you know, and as you signed up for it, this is a daughter for webinars. Uh, oh, a daughter for webinars. Let's try that again. This is a webinar for daughters who are seeking to heal their relationship with their mothers. And I'm talking about biological adult daughters who have challenges in their relationships with their mothers and are looking for opportunities and ways to heal that. Now, I'm Hawa Bond. I'm a transformational coach, and you may have seen posts from me on Facebook through the Queen of Diamonds, my business page. And some of you know me personally, and some of you have never met me. No matter how you got here, no matter who you are, welcome. Okay, I'm so glad you made it. So, as a transformational coach, I primarily support women in dealing with challenges and dilemmas that keep them from living these bold, courageous, unapologetic lives that they're excited to live in their skin every day when they wake up. And what does that mean? Well, I don't deal with any one type of dilemma in particular because I have found that all dilemmas in a woman's life, and really in anyone's life, comes down to one single root, and that is not understanding your power as a sovereign creator. The relationships that you're surrounded by, the circumstances that you're surrounded by, all of that flows from inside of you. There's not a single thing in your life that's not serving a role that you gave it, right? And when you come to acknowledge that and begin to live that, it's so liberating. But all challenges have the same root. And it's where you have to dig inside and say, how am I creating this? Or what role have I given this challenge? Or what opportunity, what learning opportunity, what healing opportunity exists in this relationship or in this circumstance? And I coach people straight into connecting to that power where they're the sovereign creator of the things that happen in their lives. So I also have some webinar notes here that I'm going to reference every once in a while because I don't want to miss a single thing. So I'm going to reference my notes and continue. Okay. So the most important thing that you want to recognize about your life is that the leverage to change anything lives inside of you. The leverage to heal anything lives inside of you. I know sometimes we get into situations and we get into relationships and it feels like the situation is overcoming us. The other person is wearing on us, right? It feels as if the circumstances are so far beyond our control. But again, the leverage is in you. And whenever you walk through my doors as a student, as a coaching client, whether individual or in groups, I treat you like a sovereign creator the moment that you walk in until you walk out realizing the same thing. Okay. So my first love, though, happens to be helping women navigate the mother-daughter relationship. I spent over 10 years in my own healing journey, healing my relationship with my mother. Boy, oh boy, was that a decade to talk about. But that work is my first love. When I took that walk and I did that healing work, it allowed me to kick a few rocks out of the way, clear some brush, level some hilly spots so I could reach around and help other women start that kind of journey. Because I'm telling you, our relationships with our mothers, the more I'm in this work, the more I see those relationships are in trouble and have been for a while and deserve our attention. Okay. Now, when you came into this webinar and you saw some of my advertisements floating around, in your mind, you probably thought, this is something that's going to help me fix my relationship with my mother. Fix, right? So notice I keep using the word heal because fixing a relationship and healing a relationship are two different things. Because fixing a relationship with anyone, your mother or anyone, has a lot to do with change. Getting the relationship to change, getting the other person to change, to look like something that you feel good and secure about, right? And in this particular case, as daughters, sometimes fixing that relationship in our minds is her changing into something that looks like what our little girl needed and didn't get, and what our teenager needed and didn't get. And for a lot of us, what our adult self needed and didn't get, right? So that's what fixing the relationship means. That's why I say we're going to heal these relationships. Because to heal a relationship means you're dealing with your own triggers in the relationship, right? You're taking the role of the sovereign creator in the relationship, right? And you're dealing with how it shows up in your life. So you're actually, and I just want to make it, okay, creating a safe space. Thank you for the prompt paper. You're creating a safe space for that relationship to grow into what it could be. But you're not requiring a change. You're requiring how you sit in the relationship to heal. So you eventually you become at peace with how you show up and how your mother shows up, whether the way she shows up changes or not. So we're gonna get this healing. And the important thing to note about healing a relationship. So the potential benefit of that is a reconciliation. See, if you're looking to fix, you're looking to reconcile. You're looking to run off into the sunset and hold hands and be best friends. But healing a relationship, reconciliation is only a potential benefit, right? It's not a required feature. Now, I was fortunate. When I went through my 10-year process of healing my relationship with my mother, the first 2 years of which was spent basically no contact. Like I needed that. Like it was the end of the road for me. I came out of that and I got to experience reconciliation. I adore my mom. Like I can't imagine this life without her. But believe me when I tell you, there was a time when it never looked like that was going to be the case in our relationship. So let's get in this room and do this work. Okay. So I've mentioned, and I hope I mentioned, if I didn't, I'm going to mention it right now. There's a wounded little girl inside of you that has a hope for what the mother could be and to you should be in your life. And we have an image of what that is. And it's not the same for everyone. If you put 100 women in a room, you would get 100 different answers about what constitutes a good mother to that woman, right? But all of those answers are going to have to do with the wounded girl or teenager or adult inside of them who is looking for mother to be or embody something that they needed, right? So I want to share a slide because the important reason to do this work, again, I'll say, is not to fix the relationship, is to heal it. But why is it important to heal it? Well, it's important to heal that relationship, not so you two can be friends, not so you'll be okay or mom will be okay. But really, the reason you heal that relationship is because of how it shows up in your life, how it impacts your life. So I was going to work through 4 signs of your wounded little girl inside, right? As the reason to do this work. I mean, there's probably hundreds of them, but I was going to concentrate on 4. And right when I was preparing for this webinar, the holistic psychologist came out with a list of 6. And it was awesome because I'm like, that has my 4 plus 2 more I wasn't even going to talk about. So I'm going to share my screen. So give me a second to get through the technology of sharing the screen. Hold on. You know how that can be. All right. Perfect. So you should be able to see my screen now. Okay. So I'm going to pull this up and put it into, there it is. So the holistic psychologist came out with these 6 signs that you have a wounded inner child. And if you're here in this webinar, we're talking about that wounded little girl inside of you whose wounds emanate from that mother-daughter relationship, right? You have a deep fear of being criticized. There are parts of yourself you're afraid to express or you even feel ashamed about, okay? You look to other people to know what is the right thing to do or what is true or not true. You find yourself unconsciously trying to fix, save, or rescue other people. Girl, don't get me on that one. You feel guilty for saying no or for needing time to yourself or needing to do anything for yourself for that matter. and you feel responsible for other people's emotions. Now, the reason why that list is all tucked over there to the left is because I wanted to add my own note on how do each of these signs of your wounded inner little girl show up in your life. So if you have a deep fear of being criticized, I'm going to tell you right now that shows up in your life as people pleasing. That was one of my biggest challenges in my healing. And if I don't watch myself, I can fall into that still. Everyone's a work in progress. There's no such thing as 100% arriving. It's a work every day. But people pleasing, right? And if there are parts of yourself that you're afraid to express or you feel shame around, you fear authenticity. So you will often wear masks, right? And let's get the term being fake. Come on now. I hate the term being fake. It's not about being fake, but we'll wear masks in order to find the right rhythm and recipe to being loved and being accepted, right? This is how this sign shows up in your life, right? It's one of the ways, and I should say one of the ways. You may do or all 6 of these, right? If you're always looking to other people to know what is the right thing to do or what is true and not true, that's a loss of your sovereignty. That's how that shows up in your life. So you're disconnected from your own intuition. You're disconnected from your own inner compass, right? So it's really as if you're always looking around you for signs of what you should be doing, and you're not listening to your deep truths, right? Your intuition is almost, gone, basically. And when I say gone, it's operating, but you're not listening to it. So sovereignty is really missing in your life. And when you find yourself unconsciously always trying to fix and save or rescue others, come on. Codependent relationships. This was another huge sign of my wounded little girl in my life, right? We make projects of other people. We always fall into these relationships where people need us, right? Which leads to the most exhausting codependent situations on earth. Okay. And if you feel guilty for saying no or needing space or time to yourself, ladies, we know what this looks like. How does it show up in your life? Non-existent self-care. You fear being selfish or seen as selfish or self-centered. And for some of us, it's because we're afraid to be like mom. We feel as if, part of her problem was she was so engrossed in her own life that she wasn't looking out for us. So we overcompensate for that by just eliminating all of our self-care, right? Self-care is out the window. And finally, you feel responsible for other people's emotions. How does that show up in your life? Misplaced apologies. Listen, let me tell you something. When you're always apologizing for yourself, and this is another one of the signs, I would say 3 of these were huge in my life, but I see myself in all of them. But, I used to apologize for taking up space, for breathing, for needing anything, just always apologizing, concerned about how I was impacting other people's emotions. Well, that is a destruction of your precious emotional energy. It's just a waste of energy. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Hold on. Let me see if I can get this to work right. Okay. Let me click another button here. Okay. So this becomes, if you came in here with a why, if you came in with a why, you should be here. And it had to do with, say, fixing your relationship with your mother. Well, now we're healing, not fixing. But if you came in and you didn't have a why and you were like, I don't even really know why I'm here. I don't know what else there is to be done about this relationship. And I don't even know why I should be interested in healing it. Hopefully that last brief presentation of those 6 signs that you have a wounded inner little girl, hopefully that gives you your why. We want to stop watching those things enter into your life, eat your lunch, and pop the bag. Because that stuff is spilling into all of your other precious relationships. Even if you don't have a hope or a desire to quote unquote save your relationship with your mother, the idea is, but let's save how the effects of that relationship keep showing up in other parts of your life, including in those 6 signs we just talked about for a few minutes just now. That's what makes it a worthy work to do to heal that relationship, okay? So the next thing I want to talk about is, where are you? Now, some of you are tired, just tired. Some of you believe you've tried everything, right? And some of you believe that you have all the information you need, but it just doesn't seem to be really working out, right? But you're not at the end of the road in healing this relationship. There's still some road in front of you, even though you might feel like you got to the end of that rope and you tied a knot and you're like hanging on. There's still some road in front of you. And that's why I say, where are you? Because mastery is the goal. We're looking to master our healing, right? Gain some mastery over ourselves and over the relationship in terms of healing it. But you know you're not at the end of the rope. You know you're not at the end of the road, right? If you're still angry, you're still sad, you're still frustrated about that relationship. So you may be at the end of your skill set, but you're not at the end of the road. So I'm going to share a slide which helps people even have hope that there is some more road in front of them. Let me find that and pull that up. Aren't I just a load of... All right, let me share my screen with you. One day I'm going to get faster at this. How about that? Okay. Okay. Perfect. All right. So neuro-linguistic programming talks about the 4 steps of learning towards mastery. And I call it writing the story of your mastery. And we're going to use this as a measuring stick for where you are. And I also had to come to grips with where I was in the process of healing my relationship with my mother. Okay. So step 1, all the way up here at the top, is called unconscious incompetence. Okay. That means you don't even know there's a problem. So, and for us, think about when you were a little girl and you maybe 3, 4, 5 years old. You had a relationship with your mother, and no matter how painful or challenging it was, you were living basically in unconscious incompetence because you didn't necessarily know anything was wrong, meaning that it felt normal to you. Whatever household you grew up in, at some point when you were a child, you figured that's just the way things were. So in terms of you finding something to do about healing that relationship, you were unconsciously incompetent. You didn't know that you didn't know, right? So then step 2, as you're heading towards mastery, is called conscious incompetence. What does that mean? You became aware at some point that there was an issue in your relationship, right? You were aware that you didn't know what to do about it, right? This may have been when you were maybe 10, who knows? And you started to notice that your friends and maybe your classmates didn't have the same kind of relationship with their mothers that you did, right? But you didn't really know what to do about it. So you may have tried a thing or two. You may have gotten to the point where you were taking on responsibility for your mom's emotions, right? You're like, well, maybe I'll fix this by making her happy all the time. Okay. You're consciously incompetent, meaning you're aware there's an issue, but you were completely incompetent in terms of knowing what to do about it. Okay. Then comes step 3 in mastery. That's conscious competence. Okay. Now we're starting to get somewhere. At some point, you came across the tools and the knowledge that helped start closing the gap on understanding exactly what your role could be in healing that relationship, right? And you started putting some of the stuff into real practice, and you actually started seeing some results. And the truth is, you're able to sustain those results, a lot of them, but it's hard work, meaning it's always on your mind. You're always thinking about it. And in the moment, if you don't remember, what was it that so-and-so said about, what I could do here is right? It's heavy on your mind, but you have a conscious competence, meaning you're moving closer to mastery. You have a better understanding of what's going on in that relationship, and you even have some tools to make some conscious choices to move forward in your mastery, right? That's good stuff, right? But then there's unconscious competence down here at number 4. That's the beautiful thing. That's when you've healed and you embody and you live that healing. You don't have to think hard and remember this tool and remember that tool, and it's not always on your mind, what should I be doing right now? Because you've healed. You're walking around healed every day. You're embodying this new life, this new healed relationship you're able to enjoy without having to think about it so hard. Unconscious competence means it's not on your mind all the time, and it doesn't need to be, because you have worked through healing and you have spent the time to embody it. That's the goal, is to get past 4. Right after 4 is full and complete mastery. So why did I share this? Here's why. Most women who step into the healing process are floating somewhere around between 2 and 3. They have some skills, but some they don't. They're seeing some things that help, but a lot of things don't. They're floating right around here between 2 and 3. I share this to give you hope, because I believe it could be upwards of 90% of you to 99% of you who are in this webinar right now, whether live or whether you're watching it by replay. This is exactly where you are when it comes to mastering your healing in your relationship with your mother. You're floating somewhere between levels 2 and 3. Even though you feel like you're at the end of your rope, you're floating around somewhere between 2 and 3. That's actually good news. You know why? Because right here, number 4, this is what I live for. I live to coach and help women get to this space here after level 4, full mastery, full unconscious competence. So if you're looking for an even more powerful why do this healing work, this is another great reason. Because, honey, you have some mastery still in front of you. You may feel like it's a lost cause, or you may feel like there's nowhere to go. But, honey, let me tell you something. If you are not living in unconscious competence, if you haven't reached the point where you are satisfied with this relationship, the relationship sits, you accept the space that the relationship sits in, you're at peace, that's here. That's mastery past level 4. And that's where I would love to see all of you get to, which is the course that even triggered this webinar is. So I'm going to stop my share. Hold on. See, I might be able to get this faster later. There we go. Perfect. Okay, now we're back. So that's the goal. The goal in healing this relationship is to get to mastery. And listen, if you get to mastery in your relationship with your mother, you get to mastery in all of your relationships. I mean, my job is to coach myself out of a job. My job is to give women tools that essentially work me out of a job. Because once you master one difficult relationship, trust me, you have the tools to master them all. Because think about it. When we went through the one screen that was showing how the pain of this relationship shows up in your other relationships, well, healing shows up in all of the rest of them the same way. When you have the skill set, when you are finally mentally, emotionally, spiritually set in your healing, in your relationship with your mother, it shows up in your marriage. It shows up in your other romantic relationship. It shows up in your relationship with your children, your friends, even people at work. Don't even ask. You've mastered how you move about this world and have relationships with people. And that's the goal. That's why we work on healing our relationships with our mothers. Not so we can have, we can boast that we have this beautiful relationship with mom, but we can boast that we are truly free women who aren't caught up in the pain of anything. And the mastery we got there floats into all other parts of our life, right? So what does mastery look like? I'm going to throw a slide up here on the screen. Okay, give me a second. I'm going to just insert this one. Okay, so what does mastery look like? Mastery looks like moving from one state to the next state. So what are we moving from? We're moving from this wounded little girl that we've talked about more than once. We're moving away from thoughts and focus on, well, here's the mother I wanted, but here's the mother I got, right? We're moving from that. We're moving from waiting on our moms to change and suddenly be this vision of what we hope for in a mother, right? We're moving away from the strategy, if you will, of looking for the right thing to say, looking for the right thing to do or how to be, so we can get the thing that we didn't get from mom, whether it was love, whether it was attention, whether we were trying to avoid rejection or avoid criticism, right? We're moving away from believing there's something that we can say or do to change that, right? Let's stop waiting on our mothers to do their mothering, right? We're moving away from that to what? Listen, you're moving towards being a powerful woman who protects that little girl inside of her. You've got her back. You can tell her, listen, honey, I built the most massive, beautiful jungle gym you have ever seen in your life. It's in the backyard. The backyard is fenced in, surrounded by pit bulls. There's bouncy houses and all your friends are out there. Honey, go play, because I've got you now. You're safe with me. You don't need any more protection other than me, right? You also are a powerful woman who understands your mom's limitations. Some of the work before stepping into this healing work, we seem to know what our mom's flaws are, but now you're a powerful woman who understands mom's actual limitations, okay? You also sit as this powerful inspiration of change in the relationship. Even if the foundation or mom doesn't change within the relationship, you've still inspired and created a space for change, even if she chooses not to walk into it. As a powerful woman, you did that. You created a new space for this relationship, right? And you've recreated your role in spiritual hierarchy, right? Oh, and I don't want to forget, you've gotten rid of criticism and rejection. You no longer criticize and reject your mother. So accepting her limitation means you give up the need to criticize or reject her, because you see she's just another sentient human being having an experience here on this earth too, just like you are. Okay? But recreating your role in the spiritual hierarchy, what does that mean? What does that mean? So let me put it to you this way. I remember when I sat straight up in my bed one day, and I think I was praying that morning, and this was during my 10-year healing process, and I think it was during the first 2 years of no contact, right? So that was a rough 2 years, girl. But I sat straight up in the bed, and it was like, what if you were created to help heal your mother? See, as daughters, we see ourselves in a hierarchy, right? And on earth, there is one. There's grandparents, there's parents, there's children. There's a hierarchy that's put together by generation or put together by age, meaning our mother is our elder. But spiritually, that hierarchy does not exist. Just because she got to the earth before you did doesn't mean she sits in any particular hierarchy with you like we see it here on earth. So that means, yes, you begin to accept, oh, wow, I may actually have been ordained and appointed and chosen to come to this earth after my mother to be a source of love and healing for her. And while I'm here hoping and wishing that she had been able to be strong enough to be that for me, there's a possibility that I was created to be that for her. And let me tell you something, that was one of the realizations that really changed our relationship, because I began to see myself, okay, I'm supposed to bless her. And when I get through this healing, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to sit in that role because I feel that. I can see she's hurt. I can see she's wounded. And the more I criticize and reject her, What if I was appointed to help her through that, even though I'm her daughter? Naturally, in our human bodies, I'm her daughter. But what if spiritually, I'm her mother? Meaning, I was placed here to be a source of love that inspires her, that helps heal her. And if I am constantly sitting in rejection, if I'm constantly criticizing who she is, I'm not an oasis for her now. I'm telling her, go find somewhere else to be loved. Go get yourself together. That's the message I'm sending. If she's my mother and I cannot love her through her shortcomings. Woo, that was a hard one for me to even get myself into, right? So, one of the things that I wanted to make sure I talked about is, dear daughter, you are a powerful incubator. Now, what does that mean? You create the environment for all of your relationships to live in. And just like an incubator is created so that some things live and some things die, some things thrive and some things don't, you have the power to be an incubator in your life. So think about an incubator that you would put a petri dish into. What are you trying to do? You're trying to grow a particular mold or grow a particular bacteria, and that incubator creates an environment for that to happen, right? When babies are born prematurely, we have incubators that we put them in. Why? Because inside of that dome, an environment was created for that child to be able to thrive, for their lungs to be able to develop, right? For their little bodies to catch up to being in this world because they were born prematurely and they didn't get to cook long enough, right? We put them in an incubator. And I even use a refrigerator as an example of an incubator because usually we talk about warm places. A refrigerator is cold, but it is an incubator. Why? Because it specifically has an internal environment that's meant to keep certain things from growing in your food so that food is edible and healthy longer. So you're a powerful incubator. That means the environment that you create around you is the environment in which your relationships live and grow or go to die. You have the power to switch the dial. Because if you look around and your relationships are all challenged, and some of them have the same challenges, like if it seems like if you're dating and it seems like every relationship starts out differently, but they all kind of end the same. Like, why do I keep attracting this type of guy? Why do I keep this? Why do I keep that? Why does this keep happening? Well, you're an incubator. If you don't like the things that are growing in your environment, just like you would with a regular incubator, you flip the switch, you turn the dial, you do something, you create a different environment. Listen, sorry, there's gnats. If you have ice cream melting in the freezer, you don't say, oh my God. What do? You change the dial. You turn the temperature down, not up. You turn the temperature down because you need it to be colder, right? In your house, if you're chilly, what do? You don't go, oh my God. You go to the thermostat and you change the dial. Your house is a bit of an incubator, right? It's the same thing in your life. And why did I talk about this? Because we are also, now that we're adults, we're not little girls anymore. We are creating the environment in which our relationships with our mothers can grow or die. We decide what it looks like. Now, that doesn't mean if you create the exact right environment that your mom will grow into it, but I'm going to tell you something. When I changed my dial, and as a living, breathing incubator, my relationship with my mother began to flourish. I even saw changes in her that I never thought I would see. And I had to really sit one day and say, good Lord, this is a result of me making a decision that I'm going to change the environment inside which I've created for this relationship with her to grow. And I have to share that. I want you to walk away from this webinar, not just with information that I'm going to give you at the end about my course that's coming out, but I want you to walk away from this webinar feeling as if there is something left for you to do to heal your relationship with your mother. and take advantage of opportunities to do just that, because that gumption is rising up inside of you. So remember, you're an incubator. Okay. So what am I going to do? 3, 2, let me just take a look at my 4. I'm just going to cover quickly as possible 4 things. So we talk about from here to there. I just talked about what does mastery look like, right? And if when we're talking about mastery, you're on this road, right? But how do I get from here to there? How do I get from where I'm sitting right now, like frustrated, whatever, feeling real tight and salty, whatever it is? How do I get from here to embodying this mastery that I've been talking about? I'm just going to pick a few things. Because one of the first things that you have to do is, I don't know why I mentioned this one first, because this is one of the harder ones for people to swallow, but you're going to have to scale that forgiveness mountain, girl. You're going to have to put on your hiking boots, and that huge ass mountain in front of you called forgiveness. You're going to have to scale that puppy and get to the top and stake a flag in the ground. Okay. So the reason why so many people cringe when you say you're going to have to tackle forgiveness is because a lot of folks have ideas about what it is and what it isn't. So if these gnats don't leave me alone. So I'm going to throw up a graphic right now. Hold on. So I love it because Oprah Winfrey has said 2 things about forgiveness that I think are awesome. The first one is forgiveness is giving up the hope that the past could have been any different. I love that. And the other thing she said about forgiveness, true forgiveness is when you can say thank you for that experience. So I'm not getting ready to have a course on forgiveness here today, but I did want to mention it since it's one of the things you have to do to get to mastery in terms of healing your relationship with your mother. That no matter the depth of the offense that occurred between you and your mother, you can forgive her. Some of you are here because you and your mother have huge personality and energy differences, right? And that stuff comes down to annoyances. Like, I can't get along with her because I can't even stand the way she thinks. Okay, that's an annoyance. But some of you here, and a lot of women out there, are coming from deeply traumatic pasts with their mothers. I mean, there are women who have mothers who are addicted to drugs, who were alcoholics, and who were not, as a result of that, available to them as they were raising them. I mean, that's a traumatic experience for a child. Let's just put that out there. But it doesn't matter where you are on the scale. You can forgive your mother. I talk about Joyce Meyer because she demonstrates one of what I think to be, listen, she must be a saint because I don't even think I could get to where she is. But she was molested by her father, for her childhood. I think all of her childhood until she left home. And her mother knew about it. The dad kept molesting her and the mom kept not helping her. And do you know, she ended up taking care of those parents as they got older. She said forgiveness was just utterly necessary. She truly believed that. And she talks about what a blessing it was to be able to do that. And in fact, taking care of them also meant they ended up having conversations about what happened to her when she was a little girl. So I don't know if any of you know who Joyce Meyer is, but I'm going to tell you what. That's her story. And I think it's incredible. So let me move along because how far are we? We're almost an hour into this and I really didn't want to be an hour. So forgiveness removes the thorn from your side. It doesn't remove your right to be angry. It doesn't remove your right to remember. And this is what people, listen, honey, there is no such thing as forgive and forget. We don't do that here. Okay. You're allowed to remember and you're allowed to be angry about it and you're allowed to admit it hurt. Forgiveness is just giving you the right to remove the power of it from your life. For instance, if I took a little X-Acto knife and I placed a cut on your wrist right now, well, that hurt. But that's going to heal over one day. And if your feelings are hurt every time you remember that moment I cut you with the knife, that's the act hurt you, but the ongoing effect is that you're holding on to the pain of it later, right? So forgiveness gives you the right to look down at that healed spot on your wrist and not have the same memory of it, or not have it, not have it affect your life the way it did when it first occurred, right? So quickly, some forgiveness work. Romanticizing what could have been. I see that a lot. In fact, oh my gosh, my feelings were so hurt when recently I saw a woman who was in her 40s, I believe she was in her late 40s, who was so sad and said, I wonder if my life would be better if I'd had a better mother. Whew, that's romanticizing what could have been, right? And I was talking to my son one day and I said, I wanted to be a millionaire 20 some years ago. I said, but looking back, if I had become a millionaire then, who knows? I might have turned into a jerk. I might have all kinds of problems now, right? So I have to stop romanticizing what life actually would be like for me now if I had those dollars. And that's the funny part. We seem to think if we had something we wanted, that life would be better. But that's not necessarily true. So when you do the forgiveness work, you have to face that, romanticizing what life could have been like if you had a different mother. Because I've seen people with fantastic parents who admit they have fantastic parents, and their lives are a mess. And then there are people who had horrible parents. I'm talking drug addict parents, both of them strung out, whatever. But the kids turn out beautifully. So you can't romanticize what life would have been like if you had a different parent because you don't know, right? You have to believe you got what you needed and you have an opportunity to learn from it. Okay. And also some of the forgiveness work is elevating to the spiritual view. I mentioned earlier when I said, yeah, I may be my mom's daughter in a human sense, but spiritually, I may have been sent here to help her. And once you start elevating to a spiritual view of things, you start seeing things a little bit differently, right? So don't be afraid of forgiveness work because so many people think, and they won't even approach forgiveness because they feel as if it's like letting your mom off the hook in a way that she didn't even earn, right? And it removes my right to be angry and hurt, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's not what forgiveness is. And when you get into the work of forgiveness, you'll get to that. Okay. So moving on to number 2, some of this work that you do to move towards mastery, right? Removing yourself from mom's mix. This is important, right? Your mother did not give birth to you and they placed you in her arms. And she looked at you and said, you know what? I want to screw this up. Man, I want to be such a bad mother that this child has to grow up to heal from being my kid. There's a damn good chance that not a single one of your mothers said that. Even those of you who were sitting here and you feel as if your mother failed greatly at being a parent, I'm pretty sure that's not what she set out to do. She had hope for her role as a parent, and she had hope for you as her future, as her legacy, right? But she didn't have the tools. She didn't have the strength. She didn't have the knowledge. She didn't have the support. She didn't have what she needed, right? To create the life that she wanted to create for you. And for some of your mothers, somewhere along the way, she felt so helpless and hopeless about that she simply gave up. But believe me when I tell you, remove yourself from the mix. None of that was about you. However it was that your mother failed, it wasn't about you. That hope that she had when you were born, that was about you. And everything that she did wherever she failed along the way, that wasn't about you. That was about her not having what she needed to do any better than she did. And that's part of the work that you do as a daughter in moving towards mastery. It's coming to that understanding, right? So her failures were never about you. The third thing, and I'm only doing 4, you have to acknowledge some of the psychological things working against you. And one of the ones that I cover in my course specifically is negativity bias. Who knew that was a thing? Well, I knew it was a thing. But literally the human brain captures negative things that happen and holds on to them with a vice grip and will often wipe away positive things, good things that have happened. And in actual scanning of the brain, now psychologists have studied this and scanned the human brain to measure when this begins happening in a person's life. And I'm going to give you a chance, right in the comments. At what age do you think the human brain starts working against us in that way and holding on to negative things and wiping out the positive stuff? Take a guess. I'll wait. I'm going to say it. 12 months old. When you're still a baby, your brain is already setting you up to focus on the negative. You have to purposely control that. You have to purposely counteract that in your life because it's a phenomenon that it's a natural phenomenon, apparently, that occurs in the human life. You have to take control of the narrative and you have to take control of the story. Okay? I'm going to play a video for you. I developed a tool during my own healing process. And the tool was a powerful one. And if you're a coaching client of mine, or if you're taking one of my courses, you get access to all of my tools. But I'm giving this one away for free here today because it contains an actual example of how I used the tool in my relationship as I was healing it with my mother. And I'm going to play it now. All of my tools are set up as videos, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and share the screen, and I'm going to let this video play for you, okay? All right. I'm going to hit play and enjoy this free tool. It's called the Alchemized Story. Welcome to my Alchemized Story tool. I created this tool first for daughters, but this is a powerful tool for use in any relationship. So whatever relationship brought you to this tool, whether it's a marriage, a relationship with a parent, a relationship with a sibling, you can transform the stories you tell around that relationship and craft new outcomes. So why is this tool important in that particular journey? Let me give you a scenario. Let me set this up for you. So there's someone you like at work. You get along beautifully. You'd almost think you were siblings, the way the two of you get along. You work well together. You enjoy each other's company. You've even gone out for cocktails to happy hour after work together and had a good old roaring time, right? Then one day, after, 6 months to a year of this beautiful relationship, you hear a rumor about something potentially unkind that they allegedly said about you behind your back. Now, suddenly, this person can't do anything right in your eyes, right? Why would he wear that color? That color is horrible on him. Oh my goodness, look at her. I have never noticed how ugly her hairstyle is, right? That relationship with that coworker at this point won't fail because of an actual problem. Like you never went up to them and even asked them about it. It will fail because one person, and it only takes one, and in this particular story, that person is you, won't give the relationship a positive space to grow into. After a single incident, a single potential event was translated into a story that created a script that was destructive to that relationship. So that's my setup for the Alchemized Story. Now, before even jumping into this slide, I promise is not going to become a chemistry lesson, although we see a little chemistry going on the screen. I want to add this footnote. Stories feel so true, and some of them are even loaded with facts. But your experience inside of your reality will can never represent objective universal truth. So this tool in itself really presents a way to rewrite your reality to produce positive outcomes in your relationships instead of these, painful experiences that play on repeat that sabotage your joy and sabotage your relationships. Okay? So here on the screen, we have two elements. One is sodium and one is chlorine. Some of you chemistry buffs already know where this is going. So sodium is a toxic material, actually, and it reacts violently with water. I don't know if you've ever seen a sodium reaction in water, but it's explosive. And of course, it's toxic to the human body. Now, chlorine is also a dangerous material. It's toxic to the human body. It can be fatal. It burns the skin as a liquid. It irritates the mucous membranes as a gas. It's no bueno, right? But what happens when you put these two things together? There's a reaction that occurs. We're going to call it alchemy since we're using the term alchemy, but it's all chemistry. They react to one another and create what? Some of you have already said it. Table salt. That substance that makes food so delicious and savory. Table salt. So these two elements came together. Table salt was alchemized from two harmful substances into something delicious. And that's exactly what we're doing here in the alchemized story, right? So let's start with step one. Take an event, any event. You're going to use this tool later in time, but just follow along. Any event or a series of events over a short period of time, and just the facts, ma'am. Let me give you a rough example. Jennifer stepped on my toe and immediately apologized. That is something that actually happened, right? But what happens when you tell the story of it? Because the story is now where you go to town on describing the meaning and the value that you placed on the event, right? What do you tell yourself about the event that happened? Because the truth is, it's very rare for humans to just describe events. If you're talking to someone, they're telling you a full-on story. And how about this story? Jennifer was being petty, stepped on my toe, then she faked an apology. Like, that's so like her. And I knew she didn't really like me. Now, that's a story, right? What comes after that? You have to decide if the story you're telling yourself inside of a relationship or inside of an event is helping or hindering you. This is where you assess whether what you tell yourself about what happened has helped you grow or kept you stuck in a negative loop. And what's the difference? Okay, if it's hindering you, it's triggering all kinds of unforgiveness, anger, frustration, the desire to get revenge. The meaning you assign is keeping you stuck in negativity. So if your story is hindering you, that's kind of the anatomy of that. And of course, if it's helping you, it's leading you to thoughts of grace, forgiveness, growth, all the good stuff. So in real life, this is what it will look like. And I'm going to go with now a powerful example that some people have actually gone through and experienced in painful ways. I was put up for adoption, so I never met my birth mother. That's the actual event, just the facts, ma'am. But the story that adopted children tell can sometimes sound like this hindering story. My birth mother didn't love me enough to keep me. I'm unloved and unwanted, and I keep seeing this reflected in my life over and over again. Right? So this person is getting from that there's something true about them being unlovable. Even if the first sentence was only their story. My birth mother didn't love me enough to keep me. Even that's painful, right? But what happens when you take a real life event like this and alchemize it? It could sound something like, my mother loved me so much, she made the almost impossible decision of allowing others to give me the life she knew she couldn't. I can't imagine how difficult that was, and I appreciate her for it, even through my pain. See, alchemizing a story doesn't require you to tell a lie, okay, and say it didn't hurt. Hell yeah, it hurt. You don't have to tell a fake story. You don't have to make up a story. Just tell the version that fills you with the power to grow. Tell the version of the story that doesn't have this destructive script about your life on repeat, right? Now, I'm going to give you another example of an alchemized story, and this one is from my life. It is a real story that I used when I created this tool for myself as I was in my 10-year healing process with my own relationship with my mother, right? So when I was a young girl, my mom often said things that hurt me so deeply, and she would see I was hurt and then turn around and say, but you should be able to take it because it's only constructive criticism. Now, I told myself a story about this for more years than I care to admit. And my hindering story sounded like this. My mother never approved of anything I did. I was never enough for her. I'm not even sure she loved me. I mean, since to me, love shouldn't result in painful criticism. And I told myself that for years. When I alchemized this story during my decade of healing, this is what it became. My mother became an orphan at age 9. And she was eventually raised by a very strict aunt who was rigid and unkind. She grew up believing criticism helped people grow because it set expectations, and my mother wanted me to have a good life. I also wholeheartedly believe if my mom knew how much this would keep hurting me as an adult, she would have found another way. That alchemized story, I absolutely believe that story. It allows me to sit in forgiveness, grace, and compassion. It allows me to release the need to be negative back towards her because I want her to see how much she hurt me. It lets me move on in a relationship with her without holding this over her head, holding it over our heads, running this damn script that would keep us separated, right? This is what one of my alchemized stories actually looks like. So how do I summarize how to use this tool? Start out just describing an event. Just the facts, ma'am. Just the facts. Then you can go ahead to step 2 and go to town, telling the story of the meaning that you've placed on those events, right? The next thing you need to do is look at that meaning you placed on and say, okay, is this helping me? Is this allowing me to grow? Or is this kind of hindering me and leaving me in a space of unforgiveness and negativity running this destructive script? And then, of course, step 4 is alchemize the hell out of all of the stories that are hindering you, right? And I included a step 5 here. Don't forget to direct lots of love, grace, patience, and compassion towards yourself as you walk your way through this process. For some of you, this process is going to be a huge challenge. But like I have at the bottom of the screen here in blue, you want to get to peace, joy, harmony, freedom. You cannot get to that place if you are in any of your relationships, including your relationship with yourself, if you are carrying around destructive scripts about things that have occurred in your life, things that have occurred in your relationships. Okay? So if you're a part of any of my private Facebook groups, I really would love for you to stop in after you start using this tool and sharing your experience with this tool. Okay? Because your experience helps heal other people. And if you are struggling, if you are really challenged by being able to get through this exercise, to get yourself to a place where some of the stories of your life are alchemized, contact me. I help people with this one-on-one because I see this to be such an important work. All right, I'm going to scroll back up quickly and leave you first with an image of the steps. Take an event and you see what a simple event looks like. Go ahead and tell the story around that event. You can see what that looks like. And then ask yourself whether it's helping or hindering you. And if it's hindering you, alchemize the hell out of that story, right? And let's create new outcomes. All right, be well. So I'm going to have to go back through and edit that because I lost the video, but that's okay. So if you're hearing this, that means I went back and edited it and you've seen the tool video. And I don't want to keep you long here. So gosh, we have to be pushing an hour now. No, we should be over an hour. So I'm going to stop here. I just want to thank you for giving me a chance to share this space with you, other daughters who are interested in doing the beautiful healing work of healing in our relationships with our mothers. We've talked about why that's such an important work because of how that relationship shows up in so many other parts of our lives, right? So if you're here live or if you're here for the replay, thank you so much for showing up. But very quickly, the only thing I wanted to make sure I did was quickly tell you about this course, right? So let's get to it. And I'm just going to use the actual course information page, right? I created a course for adult daughters who want to do this healing work, right? So you'll have access to all of the tools. I've showed you one of the tools here, but there are several other tools that are available to you as a student. But I want to tell you what you receive as a student in this course. And I will also put links in the comments, so later you can come back to that. But you get lifetime accesses to the recorded lessons of my MotherDaughterAlchemy course for adult daughters. And that's valued at $4.99. And it includes my 4-step framework for walking to mastery, right? You're going to have access to the powerful tools that you can use in the moment. Just like the tool video you just saw, you need something in your back pocket, you've got it. You get membership to my private Facebook group that's just for daughters. I talk about why we don't do this work in the same space with our mothers. So I created a safe space just for daughters. So you don't have to sit next to your mother while you're cracking your heart wide open and getting vulnerable and doing this healing work. There's a special gift that unlocks when you complete the course, and the value of that gift is $162.50. Very specific, right? There's also a one-step method of you receiving thank you payments when you spread the word about the course. So if somebody takes the course that you sent to the course, you get a payment for that. And you also get VIP notices and discounts on future offerings. I just want you to know, and let me pop back in and unshare that because I'm trying to bring us to a close. I will, like I said, I will include the link in the comments. But if you take that course, it's $299. But I wasn't even going to do this, but I can't help myself. The course opens November 16th. So, and it's self-directed. So it's nothing, you don't have to show up on November 16th. That's just when the course becomes available. But if you go click on the link and actually reserve your seat in the course ahead of November 16th, there's a coupon called pre-sale, right? And I'll make sure all the information is in the comments, but you'll get the course for $147. Of course, it won't open up till November 16th, so you'll be sitting there in your seat waiting, but you'll only pay $147 for that seat as opposed to the $299 as a thank you, not only for showing up to this webinar, but for reserving your seat to do this important healing work and for potentially spreading the word about this work. Listen, most of you know how to get in contact with me. Send me an email. Some of you know me in real life. Call me, text me, inbox me in Facebook Messenger, however you get in touch with me. If this helped you, if you have any interest in continuing this work, get in touch with me. But again, oh my God, thank you so much for coming today. I enjoyed having you here. All right, over and out. Go make it a beautiful day, mama.